In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, one man redefined industry, society, and the very way we live our lives. Henry Ford was more than a businessman. He was a revolutionary thinker, a pioneer, and a symbol of American innovation. This is his story. Henry Ford was born on July 30th, 1863, on a farm in Greenfield Township, Michigan. The eldest of 6 siblings, he was raised in a hard-working family. His parents, William and Mary Ford, were Irish immigrants who instilled in him a strong work ethic and values of self-reliance. But Henry was never content with the slow pace of farm life. By the age of 12, he had developed a fascination with machinery, particularly clocks and watches. He spent hours taking them apart and reassembling them, earning a reputation in his community as a skilled repairman. At the age of 16, Ford left the family farm and moved to Detroit to work as an apprentice machinist. Here, he learned the fundamentals of engineering and mechanics, immersing himself in the rapidly growing industrial world. After gaining valuable experience in Detroit, Ford returned home to work on the family farm, but he wasn't there to stay. His real passion lay in machines, and he spent his spare time experimenting with gasoline engines. In 1891, he joined the Edison Illuminating Company as an engineer, where his talents quickly earned him a promotion to chief engineer. It was during this time that Ford met Thomas Edison. Edison encouraged Ford to continue experimenting with internal combustion engines, a moment that fueled Ford's determination to create a horseless carriage. In 1896, Ford unveiled his first self-propelled vehicle, the quadricycle. Though rudimentary, it was a significant achievement that marked the beginning of his journey into the automotive industry. After 2 unsuccessful attempts to establish a car manufacturing company, Ford founded the Ford Motor Company in 1903 with the backing of investors. His vision was clear: to build affordable, reliable vehicles for the average American. In 1908, Ford introduced the Model T, a car that was simple, durable, and affordable. Dubbed the Tin Lizzie, the Model T transformed the automobile from a luxury item for the wealthy into a necessity for middle-class families. Over the next 19 years, more than 15 million Model Ts were sold, solidifying Ford as a household name. Though his father was disappointed with Henry for turning his back on the family business, he recognized Henry's remarkable mechanical ability and knew this work would be good for him. So Henry found cheap housing with his aunt and took on additional night work as a jewelry repairman. Between the 2 jobs, he made $5.50 a week. And more importantly, Henry's role as a repairman allowed him to experiment with a wide variety of machines. This time was essential in his development as a mechanic, essentially serving as the education he never had. But after 9 months on the job, Henry decided he'd learn all he could and moved back home. And it was there, in 1882, that a neighbor came seeking Henry's help to operate a newly purchased steam engine. Henry agreed immediately, despite the fact he'd never operated a steam engine in his life. He walked up to the shaking machine that was much larger than he was, calmly referring to it as the little engine. Henry fed the fire and adjusted the valves, until suddenly the machine was up and running. The neighbor was so happy, he offered Henry full-time work with a daily salary of $3. But word soon spread of this young man setting up and operating a steam engine despite no formal training. And at the end of the summer, a representative from Westinghouse, a company that manufactured these steam engines, came and offered Henry a job as a steam engine repairman. Henry accepted and spent the next several summers repairing engines across Michigan and Ohio. But Henry didn't forget his dream. With the success of the Model T, Ford Motor Company expanded globally. By the 1920s, Ford factories were operating in Europe, South America, and Asia, bringing affordable transportation to millions worldwide. Ford's cars transformed societies, bridging distances and creating opportunities for business and travel. He didn't just build cars, he built connections and changed the way people lived. But best of all, since the position only required work on call, Henry had more time and freedom to work on his own creations, and in particular, his horseless carriage concept, which he now knew was possible with a gasoline engine. In fact, at a company retreat, he finally got to meet Thomas Edison himself, who encouraged Henry to keep pursuing the idea, and that the two would later become close friends. To add to Henry's good fortune, in 1888 he married Clara, and in 1893 they welcomed the birth of Edsel, Henry Ford's only child. And it was that same year that Henry burst into the room on Christmas Eve to tell his wife he'd finally made his first gasoline engine. Admittedly, at this point, it was still very basic and only ran for a minute, but all those years of tinkering had paid off, and now that he knew how to create the engine, he could focus on his dream of building his first horseless carriage. For the next 3 years, Henry worked tirelessly on the machine, using parts that would have been thrown out by the factory like leftover tubing. In his later years, Ford faced challenges, including increased competition from other automakers and criticism for his resistance to modernizing designs. His son, Edsel Ford, brought fresh ideas to the company, though tensions occasionally arose between father and son. Ford also focused on preserving history and innovation. He established Greenfield Village and the Henry Ford Museum, showcasing American ingenuity and the spirit of invention. Despite his many achievements, Ford's legacy is not without controversy. His views and actions during the 1920s and 1930s have been widely criticized, adding complexity to his story. Though other inventors had already created working gas-powered automobiles, Henry's quadricycle was one of the fastest of its time, with a top speed of 20 mph. However, Henry knew this was just the start, and so he sold his quadricycle for $200 and used the money to begin working on the second model of his vehicle. This would take him 3 more years to complete, but when he was done, he had a much improved version of his car. It was larger, faster, and ran more smoothly. At this point, though, Henry was desperate to invent full-time, but just didn't have enough money to do so. Henry Ford's contributions to the automotive and industrial worlds remain unparalleled. He democratized the automobile, revolutionized manufacturing, and shaped the modern workforce. His innovations continue to influence industries today, from assembly lines to labor practices. Ford Motor Company remains a global leader, a testament to the vision of its founder. Henry Ford's story is one of determination, vision, and the relentless pursuit of progress. His legacy lives on in every car, every factory, and every dreamer who dares to think big.